Okay, so part two, let's talk about bands. So, City of Victoria, to many who remember, the best band never to win the Worlds. And maybe people still talk about it who were there in 1979 in Nottingham, England, when a lot of people said the band should have won. Finished sixth, I believe. Won
Won the qualifier in the morning.
Right. So tell us about that experience.
I was 16 when that happened. I think just coming up for 17. And again, in those days, I was still young, and the politics and the business of the band, I didn't care that much about. That wasn't my job. I was out seeing Scotland the first time, and it was really cool and a lot of fun, and playing and working on getting the pipes. I remember the focus being, get this right. I remember Troy being a hard taskmaster. This wasn't a gentle role. This guy was General Patton out there. And it was because he knew what we could do, and he was determined he was going to get it out. And it wasn't uncommon in the 70s to be, I mean, he didn't hit people or anything like that, but there was a lot of screaming going on. We got told what was wrong with our plant, and we got told how to fix it quick. So it was rough, but at the same time, you're like, okay, that sounded really good at the end. And we never got to take a break. I always remember that. I never got to hear the band playing outside the circle. I was always in the middle of it. And I had a couple of good guys beside me. The whole pipe bar was good, but I remember having Steve Geddes beside me for years, and that guy could play like nobody's business. And we went out in Nottingham, and it was cold, and it was rainy, and it was unlike the West Coast, and it was this big, huge thing, and I'm just trying not to get lost during the day. And I remember playing the MSR in the morning and thinking, coming out going, my pipes were good. And I don't even remember seeing anybody but Jamie Troy's hands. Thinking, I have all the answers for today I need, because I didn't do anything wrong. I'm good here, because we're going to have scared of him if something went wrong. And then an hour later, or whatever it was, Steve Geddes coming back going, we're in the afternoon. That was the goal. If we could somehow come from the middle of obscurity to get to play in the afternoon against the Strathclyde Police and all these guys, fine. I don't know if they didn't tell me or if they didn't tell everybody. I never knew we won the qualifier at all. I had no idea of it. I do know that immediately after the results, Troy was angry. And he went, something's not right here. I don't know how we could have gone this many places down. I'm like, I don't know how good these bands are, really. I'm just kind of learning about the band. All I know is my band. And are they that good? Are they that bad? And then Steve Geddes walking over to see someone, and there was a judge there that they had long words with. And someone had buried the band quite severely, and another band had buried the band quite severely. And word got out that some RSPBA officials had let the morning results slip out, which happened several times. Another famous year, 1985, I remember it happening. And they were kind of letting these bands know that this foreign band is ahead. Sort yourself out and get your band up.
So you think you're saying it looked like it was cooked in the afternoon?
I don't know if it was cooked, but there was some cooking. I would never say that we should have beat the Strathclyde Police, because I didn't hear them for one thing, and I have a hard time with people that come from two different vantage points declaring a result. It was a brilliant band. We watched them during the week. But I know that enough actual crooked stuff went on. The fact that it went on is what's so bothersome. It doesn't, none of that had gone on, we still maybe could have been sixth. We'll never know, but nothing went wrong in the afternoon. Everybody seemed to think of it. Top pipe majors were talking with our lead group. I was too young to know that stuff at the time. My best pal and Pete, 2 years older, and I think that's an important 2 years at that time. He was, an adult in university. He was a little more in on that stuff. I was out having a good time, kind of just enjoying playing, meeting people, and listening to piping and stuff. Things went on though after that. I know that it's been said, and it's sour grapes, but I know that a judge had said if we could do something to make you come back better and make sure that the judge that maybe offended the band so bad was not near the panel, would you consider coming back? Like it was as close to guilt admitting, and that was from a very close family friend, Bill Mossy, who was a friend, an acquaintance. Bill's from Ayr, was from Ayr, and he was an acquaintance of the judge, and I went, wow.
Yeah.
This just, all I knew at that point was like, from going to Scotland to play, and I always kind of knew this, we had this vision, and they don't like the Colonials so much, and it was sort of like that, but this all of a sudden became, wow, that's the crooked East German judge thing, because the figure skating we'd all seen, and I was shocked. I was like, really? But then, I took it, and I became part of my learning process. As something must have made them put the other band ahead anyway.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to nail it down in 1981 in Aberdeen again, and everything was going good. Everything was right. We were well up in the morning, and I went out and heard the bands in the afternoon. I was ready to hear it all, and I thought we did good. But again, you're in the circle thinking what you did, and then you're standing at that time closer, but we're still 15 feet away. Hearing the next band, it's a completely different thing. I did, however, listen to the Strathclyde Police, and I watched Harry McAleer's ring fly off in the circle. It was that raining, like it was just torrential downpour, and I can't. Until that point, I'd never heard a sound like that in my life. They started up, and I went, "Wow, amazing!" Played perfect, full dress as they were, and I remember him. Pipe Major McClellan was about to call the band, and Harry took a foot forward to get his attention. Permission to step forward, Pipe Major. We're close enough to hear that. All right, and he went down and picked up his wedding ring. And I'm like, whoa. It was just like, holy moly. It was an amazing thing. And it was brilliant, and I thought, I don't know who we are. We didn't beat that. So being angry at 79 was gone in 81 when I saw what happened.
So what about, let's say if the band did win in 79, or even 81 for that matter, do you think you'd still be in British Columbia right now?
That would have absolutely depended on the amount of people. I know Jamie wanted me to stay. He always wanted me to be there to hopefully be a guy to help with the band and or take over the next generation. But if there wasn't enough people, then I'm not sure that they would have done it. I say that tentatively because Victoria is sort of similar to where I live now in Halifax. We're geography stricken, like we're in a closed place, and people have to come to the band if they don't actually live there. And you're trying to grow a major pipe band out of, at that time, like maybe 175, 200,000 people in Victoria, if that many. That's a tough chore to grow a top band. They try to do it here in Toronto every year, and there's 5 million and another 5 million not too far away.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think they could have, but I think it's an impossible thing to tell.
Yeah. So, okay, so you moved to Ontario 82, joining the 78th Fraser Highlanders, and that was the beginning of that band pretty much, within that time frame. And it was kind of a melting pot of composition and creativity. You talked about that before, being drawn to some of that creativity. Why don't you expand on that?
When I got to the band, I remember at first I was shy to step in. And I think it was because I was basically a bit shy to step in. here's a group of people that had been playing together for just a year almost now. And I came rolling in. I thought I could play that stuff, but it's a completely different style. My pipe setup is West Coast to the East Coast, so it's just different reading and pitching and things like that. And can I do it? And I was shy. And for some reason as well, which I still don't know why, I got really sick when I moved here. Not long after, I was sick for about 3 months, and it was quite worrisome. We didn't really know what it was. I lost 35 pounds overall, and I think it was just really the start of diagnosing having IBS and stuff like that. But that, I couldn't really pipe for weakness, and I think I was using it as an excuse. And but I was going every week, coming along with Bev and meeting with the gang, and Bill said, "You gonna play or not?" I'm like, "Yeah." And as soon as I finally played one day, I thought, "Okay, I'm liking this," and I like listening to John Walsh, and Michael Gray was playing, and I'm like, all these guys, that aren't playing solos are still really cracking good players. This is cool. And at that time, it just started to talk about making an album. So it was, we need some material. And who better, as you and I both know, to speak up right away but Michael Gray, who, is always thinking about this stuff. And he kind of spurred me on, I think, at the beginning. And I thought, I got a couple ideas that are maybe traditional and different, but let's see how they fly. And maybe we can get a little oil and vinegar kind of going together here and make things work. And the band seemed receptive to it. I think the band was basically receptive to something new and fresh, challenging and rhythmical, because people, we were kind of eating up music at that time. Like, it was nothing. And this whole concept of just playing 2 medleys and 2 sets and a Green Hills set to tune up was, that kind of, I don't know, it got lost in the translation a year back, and it was like this new group of people formed and said, we're not going to do that. We're going to just start doing more out of boredom. Probably, I have to think, spawned by Michael, because he gets bored so quick with stuff like that. Like, that's fine, let's do something else now, let's get it on. And realizing, well, we're playing all these things, just like we do a recital here and there. Let's start making some stuff, and let's come up with some concepts of what we want to do. Mm-hmm. And so it worked out good. Bill wrote some tunes. He was a good lineman for the two of us. Kind of, he could break it up if it was not working right. He could say why he thought something was working and what wasn't working. And Michael would have tunes, and others would write tunes, and I'd have tunes. And I always felt that Michael was excellent for spawning the idea. And if I had the idea, then I could go with it. Even when I'm composing today, we'll get to that, but I like to have at least an idea of what I think I want to do, then I start to do it. Michael just seems to, out of the blue, come up with this concept and then start writing around it. And that helped me out a lot. He still is a huge inspiration, even though I think we write 180 degrees different in our composition ways and styles, which might have been what was a big secret of the band.
Yeah. So what about, if you compare that, the 78th Frasers back then with that creative force, could that exist and succeed in today's kind of pipe band world? Or does it? Maybe it does. I don't know.
I think it does in some ways. I think why it worked so much then is we just come, I don't want to put years on it, maybe 10 or 12 years out of bands not just being military bands marching up and down anymore, but all of a sudden we had this medley. And then someone thought, Ian McLeod, I think, well, the Red Hackle added a little bit of Peebrick into a medley. Like, holy smokes, what's that about? That's not a 3/4 into a hornpipe jig end. That's just Peebrick. And then Ian McLeod, always remember the Edinburgh Police with the little small Strasberries and reels. What a bright thing that was probably, I think, the first big major step to medley construction being what it is. is getting rid of the solid 4-part standard tunes, which was it was just tunes we knew shuffled into a deck and spit out. But Ian McLeod with the Edinburgh Police took those nice little sort of stress band, half tonic type reels and made the band play them with balance, and it was like, wow. So we came along at a time where nobody had done a concert. Composition was free form, and I think the world was our oyster because there was nobody there that could say it was wrong at the time. It's working today still with lots of bands and pieces, but nothing is new to that concept to me. It's still an innovative thing. Some other groups have done great work with backup musicians. Many bands bring in backup musicians for what I would say, number one, the right reason. So it's not just an a cappella pipe band sound all night. There's some other textures, but they're not, for instance, they're not like what the orchestra did for Scottish Power. Like that's sort of taken it to a different level. Mm-hmm. And what the next step is, I'm not sure. Otherwise, I would have sort of thought of it and kind of started to implement it. I mean, we've had pipes inventing tunes, we've had making suites of all sorts, for lack of better terms, medleys, pieces, suites, whatever you want to call them, where we're spending the envelope. And we've got bands, I think bands creating concerts is a fantastic thing because it keeps people's minds moving. And maybe it's just the exact same program Band A plays as Band B did last year, except with all new tunes. Well, it's a fresh listen. Nobody says you have to rewrite the direction book to create the music. A good reel is a good reel. In fact, I was mentioning this with Alex last night. It's great playing is not just about the great tune. It's hitting at that mark at that time with that instrument in that audience on that tune at the right tempo. If any one of those factors is missing, it's not. It's not that special moment. And the Frasers seem to have an ability to create that quite often. Partly, I think, from the crowd buzz who were egging it on. They were willing it out of us. And then a lot more bands stepped up. Vale of Athol was doing a lot of the same. I wasn't as familiar with what they were doing, and I don't think they got the venues at first because the band's traveling, let's give them the venue. Mm-hmm. But they were very inventive, and they were playing fantastic music and applying their music with a raw Scottish folk band with Kilbeg, and of course the intermediate guy there, Gordon Duncan, who's, a genius beyond genius, weaving that together. It was a different thing. So it was a great time in the band. You're creating stuff. It was kind of a real rock band thing that you didn't realize was happening at the time. Nowadays, there's so many bands, there's so many instruments available, there's so many multi-talented people. I'm not sure, while it's enjoyable, I'm not sure that it's a new thing, so it can get old really fast. Which, with composition, there might be very good tunes, but there's so many tunes being written with the purpose of filling 1 minute and 22 seconds, and I don't care 8 months from now if it never gets heard again. And to me, it's just, and that happens a lot in bands.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking like a pipe major. You're talking about, you've had a lot of experience. You got obviously the background to be a pipe major, but you've never been a pipe major of a major band. I'm sure you've been asked. What do you do? How come that is? Have you just?
There's a couple reasons, and it didn't happen at the beginning. I would have definitely considered it in the Frasers if Bill was ready to step down and I lived there, and I did consider it when that changeover occurred and was asked. But in the Halifax situation, for instance, I found that I wasn't diplomatic enough, or in my terms, I wasn't going to be a good enough babysitter to put up with why something can't happen. I don't want to know why it can't happen. You know, I'm here to play tomorrow. I've been sick all week. I got an inhaler going, but I'm going to play at the Livingston because I want to. And why I can't, there isn't a why I can't right now until it turns out that I can't do it. And that happens in bands, and it kind of frustrated me a little bit. So I thought I could be the musical leader, I could write the stuff, I could do the games field stuff, but I didn't want to be the people manager, and that's so important now. And I don't think I'm really have the skills for that. I didn't grow up in an HR kind of environment of any sorts. I grew up on a construction job site, really.
Right. So what about, you're with the other 78th now, in Halifax, the 78th Highlanders. How, and that's kind of as remote as you really can be, and still be a grade one band. How's that band been able to sustain itself and achieve such a good standard?
A tremendous amount of work. I'd like to braggingly think a bit of reputation helps. People want to come to the East Coast to maybe study with me and play in the band. We try not to be political, and I don't want to make it like sort of the big 3 or 4 in Ontario political, but anytime that someone doesn't get their right bowl of cereal in the morning here, they can skip off and join the next band. And I mean, it's been happening here for years and years that so many people have played in so many different bands. It doesn't happen in Halifax. We build the group up, and if we can get the people to come, they've invested a fair bit of time that it's a little bit more of a chore to leave. We've had Rod McLean has been out there since 1997. Terrific people leader, good player, really good running the band. Was good at delegating. I did a lot of the work, musical and instrument work, while he managed the people on days when I was ready to probably just hang them. He would take them off the side and maybe make things nice and get them back and fix the pipes and get them back in the circle. And I never felt that I had the nicety to be a pipe major. And I really felt that, I work hard to not get growly with Alex when I teach him at home. But when I teach myself at home, I'm as angry as can be if things aren't going right. And I think that's just all that 70s thing. This is what made it right. You worked hard. If you didn't do it, you played it 2 more times. And if it's 11 o'clock at night, too bad, play it again, because you're not putting the pipes away until you're happy with it. And I just don't think the way bands run differently today, I want to be a part of it. And I also want to be a part of the composition. I want to be a part of the teaching and a lot of the other parts of it, which kind of sometimes takes the leadership role out of it. If you're to be the pipe major and write all the music and lead all the people and set all the instruments, I think a wild guess, if I was to pick one who's maybe coming close to that, would be Ryan Canning. He's the only guy close to doing that many jobs in a band right now, and bless his heart, how long that's going to last.
Until he
delegates enough of it out.
And so what about Halifax specifically? What are the biggest obstacles for the band?
Geography.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. We have no obstacles except we have an absolutely rotten winter that goes on for most of the year. So, and that's a big obstacle. But we're coming up to play at Georgetown in June. And last year we came to play at Kingston. We played outside one night before playing at Kingston, and then all of a sudden we're going to go out, and it might be 70 degrees, it might be 60 degrees, and that's our first time playing outside. That's a huge obstacle, because any band here knows those first couple of practices outside, doesn't matter how good your band sounds, it sounds awful. The change of weather and your ears get tuned into the clarity, and you find out how mushy things are. It takes a while tighten that elastic up. And so that's a big issue, I think, for us. Tremendous advantage for LA Scots or the New Zealand bands, apart from their distance. They can play all year and refine that stuff. But our geography is to promote people to come and live in the Halifax area is really difficult.
Yeah. So, and now you've been playing under your eldest son Alex as pipe major. So, what's it like to play under your son?
It's good. I like it. I was the one who nominated him. I said the best thing for the band is to put someone in, young blood, with an urge, who has what I think is the talent. He'll gain more people skills as he goes, but he's already doing that in his business degree and working. He's just started at the bank, but in his business degree and dealing with people on his part-time jobs. So he knows a little bit about sort of the HR thing. He knows about sound. He played with us as a kid. He spent 2 years with the Field Marshal Montgomery that he just learned an absolutely tremendous amount of things that I've learned a ton from him, which really are tips from Richard Parks that he learned. And he's easily as competitive as I am. So I like that. He's not going to accept it unless it's really, really good. And so he runs the show. We bash heads a fair bit. I try to stay back now as much as I can and just kind of hide in the back and play. And if he says, can you take him away and fix a chanter? Okay, fine, I'll do that. Or I'll work around and be the drone guy and just kind of relax it through. But it's good. I mean, people are often shocked at that. And I'm like, everybody who knows the two of us think that we're near identical anyway. So how would it be I'm just like playing under me 30 years ago, really 25 years ago. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So, and what I like about Alex that I've not seen in a long time is that everything he says, he does. Every example he sets, he does. When he tells people that they need to do 20 starts and attacks at home, I hear that in the basement. And he talks about little tips that this is what Richard said to do. And he do something with a drone. I'll see him doing that at home. So he said, do as I say and as I do, not just, here's something you guys should do and I'm not going to bother with that. Yeah. So he leads by example.